Most people care deeply about their dogs and genuinely try to do what feels right. Small doubts still creep in, especially when routines slip or patience runs thin. So when the idea of hurting a dog's feelings comes up, it sounds dramatic, like something obvious, immediate, and easy to spot. But canine emotion works very differently. Dogs do not replay moments, assign intent, or measure fairness the way humans do. Behavioral research shows responses begin in the nervous system, not in conscious thought. Safety, predictability, and stability come first. When a tone shifts, a routine changes, or presence feels inconsistent, a dog is not forming an emotional judgment. The body is simply scanning for reassurance. The quiet question underneath every reaction is whether the environment still feels safe. Understanding this internal process changes how everyday interactions are seen. If seeing behavior through that lens matters, subscribing may help. Because to understand emotional change, safety must come first. How dogs experience emotional change. Humans naturally create meaning around events. Moments get explained, interpreted, and turned into personal stories. Dogs experience change in a very different way. For a dog, perception begins in the body long before conscious thought ever forms. The nervous system responds first, quietly scanning tone, movement, rhythm, and consistency to decide whether an environment feels stable or uncertain. This is why isolated incidents rarely leave a lasting impact. Patterns repeated over time carry far more weight. Dogs do not require perfect reactions or constant correction. What matters most is clarity and steadiness. Predictable routines allow the body to settle and relax. Inconsistent signals keep the nervous system on alert, even without visible stress. Emotional change often begins before a word is spoken or an action is taken, forming below the surface and building silently. Surprising way 1. Emotional absence without distance. There are moments when nothing obvious appears wrong, yet the emotional tone inside the space quietly shifts. Movement becomes faster, breathing grows shallow, attention pulls inward instead of outward. No frustration is directed toward the dog, no visible conflict exists, and no correction is happening. Still, the internal state has changed. Dogs detect this immediately, not through logic or explanation, but through physical signals. Posture tightens, pace alters, stillness disappears. Breathing patterns signal tension. A dog does not search for reasons or blame. The nervous system simply registers uncertainty. When emotional energy changes without a clear cause, monitoring begins, alertness replaces ease. This response is not rooted in guilt or fear. It comes from the need to assess whether stability remains intact. Over time, when emotional absence becomes familiar, regulation never fully completes. Rest turns shallow. Watchfulness lingers. The dog stays prepared instead of settled. No harm is done in a single moment. No trust is broken instantly. But the body remains slightly elevated, waiting for cues that never fully arrive. Regulation pauses rather than completes. As that unfinished state repeats, predictability itself starts to feel fragile. That subtle instability shapes behavior long before visible signs emerge. Surprising way 2. Inconsistent signals create ongoing vigilance. Consistency allows a dog's nervous system to relax because predictability reduces the need for constant assessment. Flexibility is not the issue. Unclear signals are. When expectations shift from one day to the next, the environment feels unreliable. A behavior permitted previously becomes corrected later. A response ignored once suddenly draws attention. From a human perspective, this seems minor. From a dog's internal perspective, stability fractures. Instead of understanding choice, the body experiences uncertainty. Awareness increases. Scanning replaces ease. The nervous system stays engaged, attempting to identify which version of the environment is present in that moment. This continuous evaluation prevents full rest. No stubbornness exists here. No defiance is happening. The dog is simply trying to orient toward clarity. When signals remain mixed, relaxation never fully settles in. Over time, This persistent alertness becomes visible through hesitation, tension, or constant checking behaviors. These responses are often misread as disobedience or anxiety. In reality, clarity is missing. Without consistent boundaries, regulation stays incomplete. An unsettled nervous system cannot fully rest. That lingering tension often becomes most apparent in the area where dogs rely heavily on routine to feel grounded and safe. Surprising way 3. Rushed walks interrupt regulation. For many people, walks revolve around distance, timing, and efficiency. Movement becomes the goal. For dogs, walking serves a different purpose entirely. Regulation happens through sensory processing. Sniffing is not a distraction or delay. It is how the nervous system organizes information. Scent reveals who passed through, what changed, and what remains familiar. This steady intake allows internal systems to settle. When walks feel rushed, tightly managed, or focused solely on speed, that process never completes. Stimulation builds instead of releasing. The body stays active rather than grounded. Mental alertness remains high long after returning home. A longer walk with constant pulling provides less calm than a shorter walk that allows exploration. When this regulating outlet disappears repeatedly, distress does not always appear right away. Restlessness develops quietly. That energy seeks expression elsewhere. Indoors, during training, or in moments when calm would normally come easily, tension surfaces. The issue is rarely exercise alone. Regulation was interrupted. Without that sensory release, the nervous system carries unfinished energy forward. Over time, behavior reflects imbalance rather than disobedience. Surprising way 4. Unpredictable tone disrupts safety. Dogs do not process language through meaning the way humans do. Sound reaches the nervous system first. Tone communicates before words ever register. When vocal energy sharpens unexpectedly, the body reacts immediately. Muscles tighten. Awareness sharpens. Regulation pauses. This response is not dramatic fear. It is uncertainty. Sudden tonal shifts signal unpredictability, prompting the nervous system to stay alert. Repeated exposure to sharp or inconsistent vocal patterns teaches monitoring instead of trust. The dog does not become sensitive by choice. The body adapts for preparedness. Calm, steady firmness provides clarity without pressure. Volume adds nothing to understanding. Predictable tone allows regulation to remain intact. When emotional signals remain consistent, safety does not disappear during correction or guidance. Learning becomes easier. Responses soften naturally. Tension does not need to precede understanding. A regulated nervous system absorbs information far more effectively than one operating under uncertainty. Over time, stable tone builds confidence without force, and communication flows without resistance. Surprising way 5. Overriding natural temperament. Every dog carries a natural temperament shaped by the way its nervous system prefers to engage with the world. Some seek closeness. Some require space to regulate. Certain dogs thrive on stimulation. Others become overwhelmed by it. When that inherent nature gets overridden, resistance rarely appears. Adjustment happens instead. A curious temperament is repeatedly asked to remain still. A sensitive disposition is placed into loud, crowded settings. A calm presence is pushed toward constant excitement. This does not create rebellion. Internal conflict develops. Suppression replaces expression. Energy has nowhere to release. The body stays tense beneath the surface. Over time, this imbalance may appear as withdrawal, rigidity, or sudden reactions that seem unpredictable. The dog has not changed. Needs were ignored. Working with temperament does not weaken training. It strengthens it. Acceptance reduces internal strain. Reduced strain allows learning to occur with less effort. A regulated nervous system adapts more easily than one forced to override its own signals. When temperament is respected, behavior stabilizes naturally and trust deepens without pressure. If learning what your dog's behavior is really responding to matters to you, consider subscribing. Surprising way 6. Affection without presence. Dogs do not measure affection by frequency or intensity. Connection forms through presence. A hand that reaches out while attention is divided does not register the same way as quiet stillness shared without distraction. Brief contact delivered while moving past offers far less regulation than calm proximity held for a few grounded seconds. When affection becomes rushed or inconsistent, The bond does not disappear, yet it becomes thinner and less settling. Dogs register the difference between physical contact and emotional availability. That distinction matters to the nervous system. Without full presence, regulation never completes. The body remains partially alert, not from rejection, but from unfinished connection. Calm attention, steady breathing, relaxed posture, unhurried eye contact signals safety more effectively than repeated interaction, layered with distraction. Even short moments of genuine presence allow the nervous system to settle more deeply than constant touch without awareness. This form of connection becomes especially important during transitions, when environments shift and dogs look for cues that stability still exists. Before departure, after return, or during household changes, grounded presence communicates reassurance without effort. Affection works best when it feels complete rather than frequent. Surprising way 7. Unpredictable departures interrupt safety. Dogs experience life through presence and the sudden loss of it. Time itself does not hold the same meaning. When departures occur without consistency or warning, the nervous system registers abrupt change before understanding can form. The issue is rarely the length of absence. Predictability matters far more. Familiar departure cues provide a stable reference point. Repeated movements, consistent timing, and calm energy allow the body to process separation without remaining on alert. Without that closure, regulation stretches longer than necessary. Some dogs release tension through vocal behavior. Others withdraw quietly. Both responses reflect different coping strategies rather than comfort. Consistency reduces uncertainty. Reduced uncertainty shortens stress. When returns mirror departures in predictability, regulation completes naturally instead of lingering in confusion. Reunions become settling rather than overwhelming. Safety restores more quickly when transitions follow familiar patterns. Stability before leaving and steadiness upon return offer reassurance without explanation. The nervous system recognizes what feels known and releases alertness sooner, allowing rest rather than prolonged monitoring. Surprising way 8. Correcting behavior without stabilizing the environment. Behavior never occurs in isolation. It grows from the conditions surrounding the dog. Sound levels, movement, space, crowding, and timing all shape how regulation unfolds. When reactions occur, correction aimed only at behavior can create confusion. The nervous system is responding to stimulation that feels difficult to organize. Commands delivered in an unsettled environment do not bring clarity. Monitoring increases instead. The body stays alert, preparing for uncertainty rather than learning. Stability in the environment often matters more than instruction. Lower noise, slower movement, and increased space allow regulation to return before guidance becomes effective. Regulation comes first. Understanding follows regulation. Behavior aligns only after understanding feels possible. Reversing that order keeps tension beneath the surface, even if outward behavior temporarily changes. When the environment supports calm, many reactions fade without correction. The nervous system no longer needs to stay alert. Learning occurs naturally once safety feels present again. Addressing surroundings often resolves what commands alone cannot. Surprising way 9. Repeating patterns shape reactions. Many challenges do not begin with the dog. Repetition within the environment plays a larger role. Shifting schedules, fluctuating tone under stress, inconsistent routines, and changing expectations create uncertainty. When focus stays on the reaction alone, symptoms receive attention while the source remains unchanged. Dogs do not choose responses through reflection. The nervous system reacts automatically to stability or unpredictability around it. A reaction carries information rather than intention. When patterns remain unclear, alertness persists. When patterns become consistent, regulation settles. Changing the environment often brings more resolution than correcting behavior ever could. Clarity reduces the need for constant monitoring. Reduced monitoring restores safety. Once safety returns, many behaviors resolve without intervention. The dog was responding to uncertainty all along. Addressing repeated conditions allows regulation to complete instead of forcing adjustment through control. Stability restores balance without effort. The bottom line: what dogs are actually asking from us. Dogs are not asking for perfection or constant effort. No score is being kept. Responses form around patterns that repeat. Steady tone, familiar routines, and calm presence allow the body to relax. Most moments discussed here are subtle and easily overlooked. No drama marks them as mistakes. Quiet repetition gives them weight. Awareness changes everything. Doing more is rarely necessary. Noticing more makes the difference. Small adjustments restore safety faster than correction ever could. Predictability during routine moments and steadiness during change allow regulation to complete naturally. Presence during repeated interactions builds trust without force. When safety feels intact, behavior settles on its own. Nothing needs to be controlled or fixed. Space simply needs to feel stable again. If this perspective helped shift how everyday interactions are seen, staying connected may be worthwhile.